What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the uPOW podcast. I'm Sean Goodwin here with Austin Lee. Unfortunately, you're just stuck with the two of us today. The cool thing is, this is sort of the Meet the Founders episode. We're going to go through Austin and kind of get some background information so you guys can get to know, him and I a little bit better and sort of know who you're going to be listening to on this journey for motivation, inspiration, and information on your own pursuits of wellness. Before we get too far into it, though, I just want to go ahead and say, Austin is our co-founder, director of finance, technology, and legal. He's also one of my best friends in the world and someone who has had a tremendous amount of influence on not just me, but really all of our friend group. So Austin, if you want to just, give us 5 minutes or so, you and your story and, whatever else, I'm sure we're going to get into just about everything a little bit more, but for now, just kick us off.
Well, Sean, thanks for the great intro. I really appreciate it. I think that's going to be hard to follow up with. So kind of about me, and really I'll tie this into the uPOW podcast and really what we're trying to create. So basically, I think that from kind of everywhere that I've gone in life, I've had certain successes. So professionally, I'm a vice president at Bank of America for fraud data science. And while I believe that would give me some fulfillment, whether that be in the professional realm or financial realm, because having a nice, cushy corporate banking job came with more money, it didn't really make me happy. I didn't find joy in it. And I was trying to pursue goals, trying to seek happiness in the future, rather than coming from a place of abundance and being happy where I am today. So I think that's where uPOW comes from. It's about putting awareness on all those different areas of wellness, because I was neglecting myself financially. I wasn't taking care of making good investment decisions. I was actually doing investment decisions, but while it appeared to be more gambling. So I think that's where it gets tricky too, because you got to take care of yourself and you got to put awareness and be honest with yourself. And so besides that, I think what really changed my life was I hit kind of rock bottom at some point. It was a trip to New Zealand with my family, and it was like the first time my family had like an argument where it was like me against them. And that honestly was one of the best days of my life, because it helped me reflect and helped me put awareness on, hey, I got to take care of myself emotionally. I got to have a creative outlet. I got to make myself happy so that way I can radiate from there. So I started seeing a psychiatrist and a coach. And that wasn't an easy journey, but it was a journey into myself. And from there, I started to become whole. I paid off about right now $40,000 worth of debt. I have $20,000 left. We'll be paying it off in 2 months. I went on antidepressants. I came off of them. So much better spot. Emotionally, I found a creative outlet. Wait, what'd you say?
That was a fun week coming off those, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, exactly. Definitely a little hazy, a little fuzzy. So I mean, we'll definitely take a deeper dive into all those areas, but really why I wanted to start this, and like, I think Sean's a great person and somebody that is very outspoken, and somebody that, people can get behind and rally behind. So for me, like, uPOW is something about having your own journey rather than going after that cushy corporate job that you think that you should have and all these straight A's that you're supposed to be this particular person, because being in that confined space is not fun. And you start to have energy leaks, and you start to get upset with yourself, and you start to get motivated by shame and guilt, rather than being compassionate and loving with yourself. So that's kind of like a high level. I know I went on a tangent a little bit in a few different areas, but I'm sure we'll dive a little bit deeper into all those areas. So that's about it, Sean.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, the whole point of this is to dive deeper into certain areas and honestly try and figure out. I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that wellness leak, term. It's what are the areas that you're actually, or energy leak, I think is what you said. Where are you losing, in areas of your life maybe you don't even notice? Because I know whenever we sat down and decided to do this thing, it was like, man, I make this money, I do this, I do that, like I have a really fulfilling job, but like I'm not happy for some reason. I don't know why, and then you and I got to talking a little
Yeah.
bit more like, well, maybe it's it's more than just the money you make or the how much you can bench press, it's it's a little bit
Yeah.
bigger. So why don't we dive into some of these other areas?
Oh,
So
exactly. And then like the cool thing is like I get to do this with one of my best friends. And then it comes from a place of like, what do I have in front of me? And like, how can I create from there rather than trying to chase things that, well, as soon as I make, six figures, as soon as I make, $200,000, I'll be happy. Or as soon as I have like a manager position at a company or I'm partner, then I'll be happy. It's like, how can I be happy now? And go from there and expand into every area of wellness. Because I think um, we we sometimes neglect those things, and there's a part of ourselves that like wants to be creative or wants to dive into education or be well off financially or have great relationships with people, even if you're an introvert. So I guess that's like the real reason why we're doing this, and I'm super excited to kick this thing off and do this thing together.
yeah, no, it's gonna be I think a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be enlightening for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
as we start to explore these things and go on our own pursuits, and just try and learn more about like just what goes into that big word that starts over here is the W.
Mhm. Yeah.
um I mean, wellness is such a big, broad stroke term. It's like, what does it even mean half the time? We all like to say like, oh yeah, I'm happy, I'm good to go, I got money, I got cars, I got, my
Mhm.
dogs are happy, my wife is happy, like I'm good to go, right? And it's like, well, you can have all that and not be good to go. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
for
think it's going
sure.
to be really cool to explore these areas a little bit more, and honestly, what constitutes an area, what constitutes a just something that you need to be aware of. It's going to be
Yeah.
cool to see how this develops and grows and changes. And I mean, I hate to just repeat what you keep saying, but I'm really excited that we're doing this together. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's great too, because like what you said is nobody really knows what wellness means.
Mm,
And I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to give power to people to say, what does wellness mean to me?
right.
We might have a framework, or we might have like certain dimensions of areas of wellness that people can go to, but it's your pursuit. And it's not what we're trying to tell you to do. It's about what feels right for you and giving you options and opportunities and experts to step in to those different areas.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. With that being said, um, our first area of wellness, I mean, I think anyone knows that being healthy and being in shape, and just kind of having a physical aspect of your life is a big deal. Even somebody with a desk job has to have a big deal. And I think, at the risk of hurting your feelings, I'd say about 50% of the reason that we're really good friends is probably because we spent 4 hours a day in the gym together when we
Oh,
first
for
got
sure.
together. Um, so I didn't
Yeah.
know if I took some notes here. I didn't know if you wanted to just kind of go through it a little bit. I know we're going to go into physical fitness just like hugely down the road with all the guests and me and you, and this being a big part of my job, big part of my life, and me sort of being the quote unquote leader of our little community that we used to be in. So I know physical fitness for you started off, obviously at a really young age. You've never really been an overweight guy, unlike me. So it's tell us about your pursuit. Tell us about your journey into fitness. Has it always been a thing since you were a little kid? You wanted to have a six pack, or is this like you met this kooky guy who roomed with you in college and he told you could compete in bodybuilding and you did it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that is like the basis of our friendship, because I remember opening our like our shared bathroom and opening your door when I didn't even know you yet. And you had you're changing your shorts and you had your shorts off and your boxers and you had this, I think it was like Med Tech, wasn't it?
Muscle Meds, that red
Muscle
one.
Meds. Yeah. 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 And I was like, oh shit. I think I scared him. But then at the same time, I'm like, yes, like he actually lifts, like he's a bodybuilder because I knew that supplement brand back then, not anymore.
I don't think
But
Muscle Meds even exists anymore, does it? I don't know. We have
yeah,
to look them up.
I've never seen anything. No.
Yeah.
It's, I guess for me, like it started, my dad was always a big influence for
Mm.
me. And that's was like my connection to him. So like when I was a little kid, he basically had me like just not lift the actual weights, but do the form just to understand and like have that mind muscle connection, which was interesting too, because you start to connect like the body and the mind, and that's like a whole nother topic. But going from there, like I was kind of interested in it, and but I wasn't. And one day he just like flipped a switch. He was 49. He's like, I'm gonna get a six pack by the time I'm 50.
You're
And
freaking jacked.
oh yeah, exactly. And he just got shredded. He's
Mm.
one of those people that has like just this strong will and self-discipline. Like he's not going to be one of those people that has any cheat days whatsoever.
Mm.
It's like by the book all the time. And there's this girl in high school, and she came over to my locker and she's like, "Your dad is so hot." I'm like, "What?"
What'd you just
She's
say to
like,
me?
yeah. And she's like, he talked to me at Steak and Shake last night. And I'm like, oh, what did he say? He said, hi, how are you doing? And I'm like, wow, that is the influence that somebody with like, physical features can have over somebody else. And I'm like, all right, I think I'm going to start lifting weights now. And so from that point on, man, I just like started working out every single day or like every other day for a little while. And basically, I think I was interested in it in high school and was able to outperform the people that I was surrounded by. Like I was a sophomore in high school and I was actually squatting more than the center. That was like about 50 to 75 pounds
Right.
heavier than I was. And it's like, okay, if I can do this, like what else can I do? And I think I like kind of just was above, like I was a big fish in a small pond because I was in a high school of like 80 kids in my graduating class, like not a lot of people. It's mostly like all these
Far
good
cry from
old,
my graduating class.
yeah, exactly. All these good old farm boys. They're lifting bales of hay when they're not working out. And so like I think it wasn't until college with you that's when you started really pushing me, because like I could never beat you on strength. And that was one of those things. It's like there's always something to work towards and go after.
Mm.
And then to have people like Joey and little Matt and Trey, who each and every one of us, I think, like really shined in a different area. So that kind of pushed me to go towards something.
Mm.
Um, and like I think that was great. And it's kind of interesting because I'm starting this pursuit of wellness where I guess where I started at this whole pursuit of wellness, because that's where we were in the fitness and wellness community. And that really gave me the idea that wellness isn't just about how you look. That's what I was chasing after at first with my dad. Because he gave me this idea that you can, be physically fit and look a certain way. But then it was like, okay, what else goes beyond that? There's
Mm.
financial, and there's like professional, there's creative outlets, there's like this social element. So and to go on top of that, like my pursuit now is something that I neglected, is like it's about gut health
Mm.
and your connection to your gut and your mind. Now that I've kind of not mastered, but have done well in the form of like physical features, but to go on top of that and really start to understand like what I'm putting in my body. Cause I remember like when we were in college, man, we were just throwing anything that would work on our body. I remember I was just eating pixie sticks for like before my competition. I had these big ass straws and just like chugging them down because I
It's like
thought
the
like,
Wild West back in
yeah,
Briscoe.
there were no rules. It's
No,
like,
God,
okay,
no.
this is like, we knew like the macro, like, hey, this is how many carbs I'm supposed to hit. This is how many proteins I'm supposed to hit. But we didn't know like what we were putting in our body, if it was like good or bad. We were just
No.
chugging, throwing back Diet Cokes. We were throwing back like fat burners.
Amino
And that
energy, man.
amino energy was king. And
Yeah.
mixing that with alcohol like that was not wellness. That
Surprised
was,
none of us had a heart attack, if I'm being honest.
yeah, I'm just glad that all of us are alive at this point.
Right.
So,
Right.
oh, for sure. So that, I mean, I guess like overall, like physical fitness, like really got me into this and started getting me to care about, like how I feel, and was a source of joy and happiness and community that I think that I would like to build, that is not just one facet of wellness, but multifaceted in
Mm.
nature.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, I mean, I would agree completely. I mean, physical, I would never call what I've done for the past 10 years of my life physical wellness, because I don't think wellness was ever a thought. I mean, I got caught up in that. I got to get bigger. I got to get bigger. I got to get bigger, just trying to be a bodybuilder. So, I mean, to your point, eating 1,000 grams of carbs someday and then doing, 3 hours of cardio the next day to justify it. I mean, it was just, it was one part, ignorance, and it was one part like, hey, it worked.
Yeah.
So
We were like workhorses with blinders.
yeah.
Like that's what we were. We were just going towards a goal, and we would take any shortcut we could to get there. And when you're younger at that age, like our metabolism and just like our bodies could handle that stuff.
Mm.
But now I eat I eat a loaf of bread or just like a piece of bread, and I'm like, man, I feel like crap. And it's like, or just drink milk. And it's like,
Yeah, it's
how did I
over.
get here? Yeah. And
Done.
that's it. And I don't know. It's
I never would have thought at 30 I would say like my body is not as resilient as it was at 20, but it really is. Like I'm telling you, like the stuff that like would not bother me, wouldn't even phase me at 21. Like at 31, it's like, okay, let's take this a little easier.
oh yeah. And I think that's it's good because then you put awareness on it.
Hmm.
But and I'm grateful for what we had to, because I think that can get us to strive towards something even better. And it's interesting too, because I was actually thinking about this. Like even though we were basically going towards something, it's like be bigger, be leaner, constantly going for this goal, because like we were bodybuilders, we were being bodybuilders.
Yeah.
And like that was the sport. So it's like if you're a basketball player, you gotta dribble more, you gotta shoot more, you gotta get better at your free throws, you gotta get better at your 3-pointers or your footwork. And that was our game. And now, like, I'm not in the game anymore, but I still am motivated. And now that motivation is driven by shame and guilt, because now I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, man, like I wish like this was back to where it was, or like, my 6-pack doesn't look like it did, 5 years ago, or my shoulders aren't as broad as they used to be. And instead of being like, wow, I really appreciate how much care and dedication I like give to myself, instead of coming from a place of like of care and passion for myself, I like beat myself up about it. And I actually wrote about it yesterday. I'm like, man, this is something that I could actually like look towards, because otherwise I'll start like shame eating in a way. Like at night, I'll just start smashing food, because that's like an area that I think I have control over in my life. And instead of being like, okay, what do I want to eat? Like it's okay to have like a bar of chocolate, or
Right.
a drink on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that's not a bad thing. Instead, I'll beat myself up for it, for having a beer on a Tuesday at dinner, and then have like a meal that wouldn't be considered healthy by our standards back in the day. So I think that's where I'm trying to step into that compassion and love for myself, rather than beat myself up about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like one thing I've noticed in, on the mental side of things for sure is back back in the day. I hate to use that term, but back in the day.
That's the best thing I can think of.
But back in the day, I was always a negative emotion person, right? Like you tell me I can't do it, so I'm definitely going to do it, kind of thing,
Oh, for
And
sure.
so I would use sort of some of that negative energy and that negative, anything bad that ever happened, man, I took it out in the gym. And it was like, in my mind, it was like, okay, cool. Like I'm going to use this negative energy and then it's out. And then I'm not going to be a negative person anymore out once I walk out of the gym.
Yeah.
But then, fast forward to whenever I'm not living literally 6 feet above a gym
Oh,
to
for
now I got
sure.
to be motivated and go to the gym. And I have this negative thought in my mind of like, I'm going to go there and it's not good. I have no positive emotions about this place. And so it's that much
Yeah.
harder for me to even get there now that I'm like a grown adult and I live in, my own home, which is not where the gym is. And I have to go
Yeah.
to this place that I now hate.
Oh, exactly. Well, it's interesting too, because like no matter what our subconscious or preconceived notions that we had, like we had an awesome community
Mm.
of people, and that's what made it fun. And now we don't have that fun part of it. So it in a way, it loses that like passion for
Yeah.
like motivation rather than now it's all just like shame, guilt, and fear. Like, oh, I'm afraid that I'm gonna get out of shape, or I'm afraid that like I'm gonna have a heart attack just like my dad. So I need to do cardio. And I think that is something to like look into for me, is like how can I be patient with myself and like trust myself and have fun with it. So I was actually, you'll laugh at this. I was actually on the monkey bars on the gym today, like just swinging around. It was a lot of fun. And then I just got this big burst of energy and I could lift more. I was like, man, like I'm actually having fun with this. Then I can actually do more and
Mm.
enjoy the workout rather than beat myself up about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've noticed with I have a new training partner now, actually not new to me, but he's my tattoo guy. And he actually, was working on me one day. I have quite a few tattoos. I'm sure we'll go over them later on different podcasts. So I'm not wearing a big sweater. But the days that we lift the most weight are the days that we're the loudest people in the gym. Like if we're not laughing and joking between sets, like one of us is like yelling and hollering, getting hyped up for some big weight, like it's legitimately just fun. Like
Yeah.
it's not the days that I go in there and I've had a bad day and I'm, like again, back in the day, it was like I'd go in there after I had a bad day and I was like, cool, like I'm plenty fueled for this workout, right? Like I'm really mad about a bunch of stuff and I'm able to like just channel it. And now it's like if I have a bad day, like my mind is everywhere because it's like, okay, like what do I got to do to fix this? Like I'm having a bad day because of stuff at work and I got to fix that stuff at work, or stuff in my relationship and my, I got to fix that stuff. It's like,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if now I'm just more proactive or if it's just like, you know, back then I just didn't care, but
Well,
there's certainly been a shift.
and we only had like, I think that was the thing too. We only had like a couple goals.
Hmm.
And so all of our energy was going towards one thing. It was like, have fun, like be with a group of friends, like graduate, do well in school, and basically um, like work out and get bigger, stronger, faster, whatever we wanted to do. And now it's like, okay, I got to like, this one's for you, not for me. Tend to my relationship, take care of my dogs. I got to worry about work. I got to think about my financials. And so like now we're kind of going everywhere and we can't channel that energy as well. So now when we're working out, something comes up like that, we can't be present in the moment. We're thinking about our investments or our partner,
Mm-hmm.
or we're thinking about like what's going to happen at work, or what are they going to say. Even if you get like an email at work, I've had that happen where you get like a random email at work and it's like,
Mm.
oh, that's not a good email.
It sets everything downhill.
Oh dude, you can't even think about anything else.
Mm.
You're just like, I gotta take care of this is the only thing I can think about now.
Right.
And it's kind of obsessive in not a good way. I don't know.
Right, which is why it's so important that, now we are addressing the fact that wellness is so multifaceted, and there's so many different things that you need to be aware of and be able to put your energy in certain places. That way that stuff doesn't happen. Like you get something at work and you're not obsessed over work, and it's like, okay, I got to get this done right now because work consumes me. And this is 90% of me. And, working out is the other 10. And it's like, no, like if you're, you have a great amount of, balance for you, because I don't think 50-50 is ever like kind of a real thing, but you can have your own personal balance with your own fulcrum point. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure. But as long as you're kind of aware and you know what's going on, it's a lot easier to get those bad emails while you're in the gym. Be like, okay, cool. I'm going to take 40 minutes, finish this, then I'll deal with that,
Yep. Oh yeah, exactly. And then you're honest with yourself too. Because then you're just going to beat yourself up. Like, even if you take care of whatever the email talked about, you're like, okay, well, now I missed my workout and my day's ruined, or I should have done this. And it's all these shoulds that kind of run your life.
So segueing into, I think what I would say is the other 50% of our relationship is sort of the social aspect of it. We sort of touched on, just to give a little bit more of a background, if anyone hasn't listened to any of our other stuff, Austin and I both went to undergrad at Indiana University, and we were in what's called the fitness and wellness community. It was at Briscoe when they did these little small learning community kind of things. They tried to spread them through all the dorms. They've since disbanded all of them. I don't know if you know that, Austin.
Really?
FWC is gone. They like sold off all the equipment and everything. They put in like a little cafe up there. But yeah, it's done.
It's such a bummer.
I know. It's so cool. I think it's because there were people who would join the FWC because it guaranteed them a spot at Briscoe, which was like the nicest dorm. And then they would never like work out or do anything. And it was like, you're messing it up for the people who like us, who were literally, we wanted to be there,
Yeah. That was a nice part, because everybody on our floor cared about fitness at that time, but then or almost everybody. And then going forward, because I was an RA, like 3 years later, and it was kind of the same thing. It was just people from nicer, I'd say higher income families wanting to guarantee a spot. And then they would do a little, I'm not saying handshake, but get a spot in the dorm when they probably shouldn't have got a spot because they don't actually care about fitness, or they'd have somebody write them a really good essay.
Yeah.
And I think that really was it was detriment to the community itself.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that the year that you and I lived in Briscoe, I can't remember if it was the first year or the second year. What was the year we had Trey and everybody? Second year.
Trey came in the first year, but second year with like Amala and
the year that we had all those folks, it was a much better community, because half of us like actually were down there every day. But like I remember my first year, so actually before you got there, I was one of like 2 people in the gym ever, and like that's how I got the job down there, because I was just there. And Tiana, the building manager, was like, hey, we're gonna have to close the gym because like we don't have a person to cover the desk. I was like, I'm here. Like it doesn't matter. Like I'll take care of it.
Do much anyways. Yeah.
And she was like, well, I guess you do know like kind of how everything runs. And I was like, yeah. So then she literally like hired me like the next week.
Wow.
And like awesome. I just worked there while I worked out because no one used it, And then fast forward the next year, whenever they had more equipment, they actually moved from the one building that was not renovated to the new renovated building. And it was like, okay, cool. Now everybody's down here. And there were some days it was like, it was so packed you couldn't even be in there. I mean, granted, it was right before New Year's or right before spring break, but damn spring breakers
come in. Be like, all right, we got 2 weeks of this. As soon as everybody goes back on spring break, we'll be good.
Yeah, and it'd be dead empty that Monday.
I wish they would have had everybody take progress pictures the first time you actually checked in, and then did end of the year pictures, because then you would have been able to see everybody and who actually went to the gym and who didn't.
Me and you looked about 6 pounds more muscular. Everyone else gained about 30 pounds.
I know, exactly. Yeah,
not a good 30.
Why they didn't do it. Okay, yeah, that's true.
Or the kid, there was one kid, I can't remember his name, but we were doing our beginning of the year meeting, and they were like, you all signed a thing that said you couldn't smoke to work here. And he's like, I didn't sign that. And it was like, yeah, you did, bro. You're here.
Yeah, exactly. That's a fitness and wellness group. Yeah, I remember you had to even check a box that, I don't know why they did this. You wouldn't drink or smoke.
Yeah.
And it's
which was funny, but
college freshman.
Right.
Let's be real here.
But yeah, to circle, now that we went on this little tangent, the Briscoe Fitness and Wellness community is where we all sort of met. And the other half of why Austin and I are such good friends is because his freshman year, so my sophomore year, we had a good friend of ours who will remain unnamed, who was 21. And man, did we party. Like, oh my goodness, the social aspect of like just having a good friend group. I mean, like, I don't think you could have been in that building and not heard our floor.
Oh, for sure.
And like our room in particular. I mean, it was like, I will never forget your face the first day I walked in and I was like, look, kid, as if you're not a year younger than me. And I'm like, look, kid, like, you're gonna want to party a little bit or you're not gonna have fun here. Like I was an expert, like sage or something.
Yeah. I mean,
we're like, okay, yeah, I'm down for that. Like, and then I remember we set up beer pong on those little tables that you had, which were only like that high. And An was like, no, this isn't gonna work. So he went to his room and we drug the dresser from his room, laid it flat in the bathroom, and that was our beer pong table. And I was like, this is college.
That was perfect. Oh man, that was so much fun. And then we got like the different colored lights. Like,
oh yeah, it was nuts. Ran speaker wire through the bathroom into your room.
Stripper pole. Yeah, we did stripper
pole. It was
only installed by Sean. Otherwise, somebody will bust their ass.
I was the only one that could get it in the ceiling.
I know. Try somebody else.
So I guess my question for this, because again, this is something that, you know, just like physical fitness, this is something that's going to be, we're going to go into a ton, and we've got a ton of like rock star guests that lined up to come on and talk about sort of the social aspect of things. And so I guess one thing I wanted to, I don't know, point out or ask, I guess, is like, do you feel as though you're more of an introvert or more of an extroverted kind of person? Because like for me, I'm like almost pure extrovert. Like I like times of reflection and times to myself. But in terms of like, would I rather be alone or would I rather be hanging out with some people? I would always say I would hang out with some people. I mean, I'd go as far as to say I'll hang out with people I don't even like and I'll have a conversation with them, you know, that's just me. I'm a talker and that's how I am. So, you know, with you, again, my assumption would be, you know, you're probably a little more towards the middle point, or you're even more towards the introverted side of things. And so like, I guess the two questions, like, where do you think you fall? And then what is it like walking into college day one and walking into my 6'4", 300-pound ass who's completely extroverted?
Yeah. Well, okay. I think like when I started college, I would have said I was more of an introvert, but I always felt like I was somebody that wanted to just be really expressive. And I actually took like a test, like a personality test today, and I was 97% extrovert.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like in the top 97 percentile.
Must be rubbing off on you, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And because I think like I didn't know who I was at the beginning. And so like I always wanted to follow somebody. And I think at the beginning, like of our friendship, having somebody that like knew the ropes, knew how to work out, and somebody that I could trust. And so I started to follow your lead in that aspect. And I was always this like nervous kid who had a lot of anxiety. And I think a lot of that actually stemmed from my diet and what I was eating and all this gluten that I had. Cause I remember I was eating like turkey sandwiches, like 3 a day. Like one, the sodium's out of the outrageous. Two, like the amount of gluten that I'm putting in my body is nuts. And so I just always had this like anxiety that would drive me nuts. And I always felt, or I'd feel really, really fatigued. It was like a very out of balance, and that was the balance that I was dealing with. So I tried to counterbalance that out with like pre-workout or fat burners. Instead of like trying to get to the root of it, I was just putting layers on top of it and making it even worse. And I think it honestly wasn't until New York where I stepped into the person that I felt most comfortable with. And that person loves to go to concerts, loves to go to raves, to different parties, be exploratory. And yeah, I do enjoy writing and reading and having time of reflection and time to myself. But in terms of where I get my energy at, that's really being with other people.
Hmm.
I think I was also fortunate enough to work with an amazing coach, and I've been able to build this foundation that I can go back to. So, regardless of where I'm at, if I'm back in Greenfield, Indiana, if I'm in New York, if I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, Nashville, like I can be the person that I want to be without feeling like I have to mold into something different. Because I think that was the hardest thing for me, was I was trying to mold and like fit in social situations. And I think that's where it got draining for me, especially like in terms of, and I hate to say this, but job interviews and positions, because I'm just like this. I wanted to be this happy go lucky kid who really didn't care about the outcome, but to get down by like 30 job interviews and then to end up working for a tobacco company is my only opportunity for an internship.
Hmm.
I was just like, man, like I started thinking something's wrong with me.
Right.
And so I just changed everything I was. And that's where I just became really quiet, because I can't be wrong or
Right.
be a bad person in a social situation if I just don't say anything at all. So that's kind of like where that all came from. And if you want to go back to like the events that caused that, I can totally do that. But most of it actually came from kindergarten. So actually it came to me this past 3 months. And you know this, like I'm a perfectionist. Like I gotta have everything perfect. And it probably hurts your face and it hurts my face how perfect things have to be. So I'm like digging into this thing. My mentor had me do this, or my coach had me do this like exercise. And it was like, what did I see? And I was just like, I don't even know what this means. So I was like, what do I see? And I started writing and I kept getting stuck and I kept intellectualizing everything. And it got to a point where I saw this Corvette. I had a Corvette as a kid with like a bed in it.
Mm.
And that's what I slept in. And then I remember crying so much because I didn't know how to tie my shoes. And it just bugged me. So it got to the point where I didn't learn how to tie my shoes. So they like tested me in kindergarten, tested me how to tie my shoes, how to like recite my phone number, recite my address, say the ABCs, and answer a math question right.
Mm-hmm.
So, like they did it reverse alphabetical order. So I was like one of the last ones. First name, kind of weird, first grade, backwoods, middle school, elementary school kind of stuff from Eastern Hancock. But
Very
basically,
accredited place.
oh, very accredited. Yeah, they know their stuff, which alphabetical order it should be.
Just first or last name.
Yeah. It's like, all right, come on. So they, probably because a lot of people didn't know how to spell their last name is what I'm guessing. So, so I get up there and I'm nervous, and the teacher asked me, I think it was to recite my address first, and I was so nervous I messed it up.
Mm.
And then she asked me to recite the ABCs. You'd think in kindergarten you got this, and I knew how to do it, but I messed up the LMNOP part, so I messed that up. Well, and you know me, I'm good at math. I got the math question right, but then when she turned to me to like tie the shoe, she didn't want me to tie my shoe on my own foot. She wanted me to tie a shoe on this like wooden shoe. And I just started breaking down crying because I didn't know how to do it in reverse. So from that point, she like called us out. She was like, for those that missed more than 2, you really need to work on things. Otherwise, you're going to get held back in first grade. And I thought that was like the end of the world. So
That's it.
from that point on, like then it was just, I thought every teacher was out to like correct me. And that's where my perfectionism came in. So I started to like isolate myself so that way I couldn't be wrong or I wouldn't say anything that was out of place. And like, so I'm like this grown ass adult from a place of a little kid that didn't know how to tie his shoes. I'm like, man, that's good to just like get off my chest and like get out of there. But that's
incredible that you can take it back that far and figure out what it was.
Dude, And it was crazy because like after that, I was like, man, my perfectionism just kind of went to the side. Like, and it like honestly, it was a great tool for me to have, like being able to get good grades in high school and college. But now, like being an adult, I don't need to compare myself to others or like make more money or do anything else because then I'm just gonna drive myself crazy and I'm not gonna enjoy my life and my life is gonna go by me and
Right.
it's not gonna be fun.
Yeah. No. That is truly horrifying. I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Oh, dude, it felt so good to get rid of that. And like, because there's no, I don't know, because I know how bad of a perfectionist I was. Like, I'm sure you got stories from college and.
Or you used to live in your room when it was time for a test or an exam or something. The polar opposite of me, who was like, bro, I got 10 minutes. Show me how to do this real quick.
But you're like such an intellectual though. Like you're one of the smartest people I know how to like pick things up. Like you know how to like learn something immediately. So I remember when we were doing that finite test.
You're never gonna let that go, are you?
No, dude, it just blew my mind. I'm like, this dude doesn't know math. And I'm like, you're like, hey, can you tutor me? Because I haven't went to class all year. I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that.
Don't say that. I want a couple times.
so basically, then you're like, okay, go through this question. I like go through the question, you miss it. I give you the answer. I show you how to do it. I'm like, you want to go through that one again? No, I know how to do this one now. I'm like, okay, whatever. Next one, miss it. I show you how to do it. I'm like, you sure you don't want to know how to do it and get it right? And you're like, no, I figured it out now. And I'm like, this dude is screwed.
This boy's dumb.
He is going to fail his exam. And you come back and you're like, oh, I got a 93. I'm like, what the hell did you do during that exam? And I thought you cheated. And then I realized like you're just a smart MFer and like you could just pick things up on the fly. And like that just goes to show you like your knowledge of fitness and your knowledge of like anything physical is unreal. You can just pick things up and all these huge words that I'm just like, I don't even know what he said, but that sounds really smart.
Sounded good though, right?
I'm going to listen to him and do whatever he tells me.
I don't know, man. I think it's the way of learning. Like as long as I can understand how it works, like I got it. Like from that point on, like it's like, I don't know. In my mind, like there's just patterns of how things work. And like once you know how to do this math problem, it all kind of falls into place behind that same pattern, you know. And once you know the formula or once you know whatever you want to call it, you know, like my dad is kind of the same way. Like I once saw him, he took apart the top end of this truck that I had, right? And he took the intake off and took the carburetor and like it's all the way down to like you can see the rods and we're scraping all this stuff out. And I look over to the side and he's looking at the table with the intake, which sits in this kind of top of the motor right here. And he's putting the bolts back in a pattern on the table next to the intake. And I'm like, is that how all the bolts go through it? And he's like, yeah, because the next part is this has got to sit on top of this. So this bolt has to run through, but also I can't put it in until I put this in. And I'm just like, how the hell do you like this is a dude who dropped out of high school in 10th grade, right? Like this dude is like making like basically an exploded model of an engine right now in his mind on the table and just putting it back together. And he's like, well, I took it apart. I know how to put it back together. And I was like, damn, my brain kind of works that same way though. You know, like once I figure out how this connects to this, it's like, I don't need to worry about anything else in between that because I can get it from here to here, you know?
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why I struggle with like language too, because I didn't try to pick up the patterns. I just try to learn each individual instance rather than the patterns themselves, which, you know, is great for flashcards and like learning how to take tests and all that stuff, but it doesn't really measure your knowledge. It just measures like how well you can retain information for a short period of time. So it's like, yeah, I got like valedictorian in my grad school, but I don't remember any of that stuff. And it didn't really teach me how to think any differently.
Right.
It was just like a bunch of flashcards and a bunch of PowerPoints that I remembered how to put together for a week and dumped it out because I got to study for the next test.
Right. Dude, your flashcards used to drive me nuts. You used to have a stack of them boys. Like,
I remember one test.
Man.
There was one class that we only had one test and one assignment. That was it. I made 1,000 flashcards. and I fell asleep studying for the test at 3 a.m. I woke up at 6. The exam was at 8. I was like, oh crap, I got to wake up and I got to get ready. And so I didn't even study half of the flashcards because I didn't make it through. Because I was just going to pull an all-nighter.
Right.
But it's like, man, I just put my body and my mind through hell to try to get something that probably doesn't even matter anymore. It's unreal.
It's when you talk about intellectual learning or intellectual wellness, or like how people learn, or the best way for you to learn something or pick something up, it's like it is so not cookie cutter.
Oh,
Like the
it's
way
not.
you study, the way I study, bro, I could not do it. And if you studied the way I studied, you'd have an anxiety attack. So
Oh, for sure.
there's
I'd be
literally,
like, I didn't do enough. I didn't study enough. I'd be losing it.
dude, I took a history class one time, and I'm not gonna say what class it was in case the professor ever hears this, but it was on a day that Nick's had $5 triple wells, and I went to Nick's every day before class. And I was so bombed trying to learn this stuff, like I had to get bombed again to take the test because I didn't know it sober.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Did you do well?
Oh yeah, I got like an A. Like,
That's so funny.
dude, I wrote like pages on the final. It was an essay
Well,
final. I
I'm
was
sure
like,
you
watch
felt,
this, pal. You ain't ready for it.
I'm sure you felt a little bit more loose too, and it just
He actually
came.
told me afterward, like, thank you for participating so much. You were always so attentive in the front row, even though you were late a few times. I was like, I was late a few times. I was coming from the bar, player.
Yeah, it's like you probably thought you had like a speech issue just from slurring your words.
Probably. Yeah.
That's too funny. That's awesome.
But that's something else we'll definitely dive into more as we go through this, the different ways of, learning things and just going forward, especially with like me being such a formal education guy. I'm working on my 3rd degree and I have my 4th one already planned afterward, and with you just being like, no, I'm done, I'm going to learn stuff other ways. I think it'd be really cool to explore not just like what to learn, but how to go about learning it that suits you. That's the biggest thing, is like everyone thinks you got to bust out flashcards and highlighters and do this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, I've learned more from like talking to people and learning about stuff and trying to connect these like little, like, make connections in my mind between this subject matter and this story. And then this was the outcome. And if I can learn it that way, I can always tell you that exact same thing again, like,
Yeah.
it's incredible how the human body and the human mind picks up things in different ways.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because for me, like anything audio or conversational, I can remember it and it sticks. But trying to do like something that I'm reading or something that I'm watching, it just doesn't stick for me. Like, and that's why I have to make so many flashcards, because it's like I get the high level concept, and maybe that's it. Like I'm very an idea person. I'm not like as much of like in the weeds, and that's why it's, I think in some ways is like really hard for me for the career path that I went down, trying to be, somebody that's like very technical in nature. It's not fun for me. It's like trying to be something that I'm not. And I'm more like idea person, strategy, trying to implement that. And yeah, I can do technology and that kind of stuff, but I'd rather like manage somebody or teach somebody how to do it than try to do it itself.
Yeah. That's one thing I've definitely noticed about myself too, is like I have the ability to retain quite a bit of stuff, and I can learn concepts and pick up on like how things work really, really well. But one thing that I found, especially in my current, career, is that having someone who is an absolute expert in whatever I'm needing done at that time, and being able to have a conversation and speak the same language as that person is incredible, because like they can take all of their wealth of information and all of their skills and abilities, and they can complete those tasks. And all I really need to do is be able to follow up. Hey, we got X, Y, and Z. Cool. Like, and I can know it from sort of like this level, and they can know it from this level, like the nitty gritty. Yeah. They know absolutely everything. As long as I can do this well and also manage well, that's all it really takes, So I've sort of learned my position in the hierarchy of it, like I don't really want to be a completely technical exact person, but I want to be able to know everything that's going on top to bottom and be able to have a conversation about it,
Yeah. Well, and then you can communicate up or to somebody else and like make it in a, you know, quick, concise,
Mm,
hey, here's the issue, or hey, here's what we're doing right now, rather than have them explain it, because then they're going to dive too deep in all the technical issues. And, you know, it's like this parenthesis is the reason why this issue is happening, which is causing this, and that. It's like, so we're just debugging the code,
right,
and it's going to take about 2 weeks and we'll get everything solved. And it's like,
right.
okay, that's it. That's all you had to tell somebody.
Dope.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
I
man.
remember I remember having, I'm sure you've had the same meetings where it's like an hour of like just the most technical coding language. And you're sitting there like on your third espresso, just staring at the wall, like, bro, do I need to be here? Like,
Dude, yeah, it's tough. And
but some people, that's their jam. That's just, I've learned my place in the world, and it's not all the way down in the nitty gritty on most things. I mean, like when we talk about
mm,
like biochemistry or something like that, I really like knowing the nitty gritty. But I think it
yeah.
becomes more of like the things that you are an absolute expert in, I think are the things that you like to do and you obsess over to the point that you become an expert in them, you know. But it doesn't really feel like an obsession, it's just passion at that point.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And then it's like it's your curiosity leading you, rather than, oh, well, I got to code more, I got to do this, I
Mm,
really don't want to. I think that that's a hell of a lot more fun and
yeah,
a lot more enjoyable too. Then you get crazy about it, and it's like it doesn't bother you to sit and watch a video or listen to a podcast, because
right.
man, I forget what I was trying to learn, but it was something in finance. It was like valuations. And I got this textbook and I started listening to this podcast. I was like, man, I'm just going to fall asleep. I enjoy stocks and investing, and I prefer real estate than anything else. But I was just like losing my mind. I'm like, I don't really care about how much this company's valued. It's like, all right, Tesla's going through the roof, and you know, I'm trying to value Sears. I was like, maybe I should start to look somewhere else,
Right.
or start to tap into something different.
That's actually a good segue. I mean, you know, you are someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for when it comes to financial just literacy and just the ability to do the things you do. I mean, you talk about some of the stuff, so even setting up this, like you were like, yeah, man, I did this and I did this, and this. And I'm like, cool, I know some of these words. like, like I just did my taxes for the first time last year, and I'm in my first year of an MBA program just because like I want to learn more about this stuff. I mean, I think like there's a reason that people in finance make so much money and understand money and how it works, you know,
Yeah.
because there's just like that literacy and that competency that's there. And I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice by not having it, which is why I went to, you know, Kelly School of Business, and now I'm enrolled in the MBA. So go ahead and just I don't know, talk through it, you know, like why finance? Just because you wanted to ball out and drive a Mercedes, or was it because, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I think for me, like, one, it's understanding conceptually how to do everything. And I really enjoy the conceptual parts of it. And I really had to step up for my family's pizzeria, because my dad passed away and nobody knew how to do the books or how to do the accounting or finance for it. So my mom knew it operationally, but for me, it was for me to like step up and take that spot.
Mm,
Um, and really help out the family and get us to a better place for our pizzeria. So, uh, I guess for business, I just enjoy the ins and outs of it. And accounting, like some people go to sleep for it, but it's like it's kind of like the physiology of a body. It's like that's the same thing for a business. You understand the structure, you understand how everything flows, and then you can understand like how to enhance and make a business better. And you can start to find out those little areas of weakness as well. And it's funny that you say that, because I knew how to do things conceptually, but my relationship with money had a lot of shame and guilt towards it. And like, it's funny because I'll see people in finance and they'll have the same relationship with people.
mm,
I remember this investment banker that I knew, we went out one night and he's like, I got to be honest, like it was almost like $500,000 a year. And I'm like, oh wow, how much do you have in savings? He's like $2,000. And I'm just like,
Damn.
what? And but he was one of those guys that would just like go like take care of everybody, um, like go get bottle service every night. And it's just like, man, how do you live like that? But then I started to become that person and started to use my finances and how much money I was making for gambling or more self-destructive behavior. And instead of, being like, hey, like it bought something that I shouldn't have, next time, like I can do this and be responsible with my money. I just would just splurge and then go from that place. And so that's actually something that I've been working towards, is just like having a good relationship with money. And now, like when I'm on my mint.com and looking at like how much money I have or like my budget, I get excited to do it.
Mm,
Cause like on the first, I was like, oh man, I get to budget out what I get to spend this month.
right.
And like I get to see how much I'm going to save, and I can put money towards this, or I'm going to put this much money towards your pursuit of wellness. And that's where the relationship with money became a lot more fun. And then I can use my like knowledge of it and make it that much better. So it's like, okay, now I know how to save money on taxes by doing this, or I can buy this real estate and use that as leverage to make more passive income. And so I'm going to be interested to see like what happens in the next 2 years for me financially. And I guess that's also something that I really want to build out, is like a team around me, whether that's realtors, somebody that's a financial advisor, an accountant, and have a team that advises me. Because kind of like what you're saying before, where you're like, I know enough to be able to communicate with all these different people. I know like some different loopholes and different things that can like take advantage of it, but I don't want to stay up to date on tax code. I don't want to stay up to date on like how to do certain books and how to do
Right.
certain investment decisions, or things like that, or anything legal. I want somebody else to tell me what to do. We can brainstorm together on how to get to the best solution.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Would you say, and again, this question comes from the way I was raised and my upbringing, which was considerably more more humble than most. um,
Mhm.
do you think it takes money to make money, to be able to be in that position to where it's like, I have all this money and I'm not all this money, but I have money and I'm excited to put money here, 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 and here. I mean, what is your thought on someone who doesn't have all the extra money to do towards these things? Is it save? Is it try and pay off stuff so you can save more and have extra?
I think it's it's actually kind of funny that you say this. One is, I don't think it takes more money to make more money. It just may take longer.
Hmm.
I guess what I'm saying with that is, um, take advantage of the opportunities in front of you. So, for example, you only need 3.5% to get an an FHA loan. So, with an FHA loan, you can buy a property and make it your own mortgage to live in. And you just have to wait a year to 2 years. And then you can make it a rental property. And then you can take another 3.5% and buy another property. So, with that, you're leveraging more than 20, like, I guess I don't know the math on this like off the top of my head, but more than 20x of what your money is doing. So, like, let's say you put $3,500 in $100,000 home, um, then you buy that, and let's say over 5 years it's $150,000 home. You now made $50,000, which you can sell that house instead of trying to put it in a savings account and get less than 1% a year.
Right.
That $3,500 does nothing for you. So I think that with money, it's really twofold. One is like having a good relationship with it and not having shame and guilt towards it, and be willing to budget out. And then two is just like be curious about it. Like, what opportunities, like what do you want to get into? Do you want to get into real estate? Do you want to get into stocks? Do you want to get into like different options or bonds, and understand like your risk tolerance too? So I guess with that, I think it's just seeking out how, like, what your money can do for you rather than just being like, oh, well, I don't have any money. I
Mm.
can't make any more. Um, and from there, because I think almost everybody can save $3,000 like in a year or 2 years. And because that's not a huge goal, even if you're just putting that money and then going to Robinhood and then investing in like some sort of stock.
Mm.
So it's not out of reach. While you may need to look at opportunities to clear up debt or find other things to close everything off, to clean everything up so that you can build on top of it. Because I think that's, I guess, like what I'm trying to say is, um, look for opportunities rather than shutting them down before you even start.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And my stance on it has always been, it's a journey, right? It's a
Oh,
pursuit.
sure.
It's this longitudinal thing. It's not like, you get money, you put it here, it makes money, you get it back, and that's all you have to do. I think going from someone who, my first job, I made $7 an hour, $7.25. And so if you're a person who makes $10 an hour, right, you make 400 a week. I know you bring home 330, right? I've been there. Right. And I work construction for $10 an hour, buddy. That's a hard earned 400,
Yeah.
So I think if you're a person who makes $10 an hour, you bring home 330 a week, you make 400. I think if you spend the time to save up $3,000, $3,500, you're not just going to take that and just give it over to somebody and just, okay, cool, there's my investment. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to do anything with it. The skills that you're going to pick up along the way, the research you're going to do, the knowledge you're going to accrue before you actually take that money that you bled for and gave it to someone else it's going to be tremendous. It's going to be worth its weight in gold before you ever even make that first investment. You will be in such a better position. And then from there, you're going to be in an even better position because now you've made this investment,
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting that you say that, because I see so many people that work for my family's pizzeria, and they're like, they just keep staying in debt. And they're like, I don't know why I continue to stay in debt. And we like, basically, like, I see he comes back and he's like, oh, I got $5,000 for my tax return. And I'm like, oh, what are you going to do with it? Are you paying off your debt? Are you going to pay off your credit card? Or are you going to buy an investment? He's like, no, I'm buying a flat screen TV and I'm going to put new wheels on my car. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
So that's the purchases are important as well. And if you're
say it, buying dumb shit.
That's buying dumb shit. I'm like,
hey,
if you
I'm the king of buying dumb shit. I just bought an AR. It was $800. All right, I know.
Yeah. but that can also look like an investment too. Like if you're going to take that, and with like the uncertainty for the presidential election, like you could probably flip that gun and make another $200-$300 on top of it.
Probably.
And so it's like, I don't know. I think there's like, and I'm kind of glad we're doing this podcast. There's so many little tips and advice for finance that is like, just don't do these things or do these things. And but it's kind of like doing the work. It's like, yeah, you can learn everything about a diet. You can learn all about a keto diet. You can learn all about this stuff and all these different things and learn how to work out. But if you don't do it, then it doesn't matter. Your actions help you become who you want to be.
Right. No, 100%, dude. And the work you're willing to do.
Yeah, of course. It's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think, again, I'm speaking preemptively as this is like episode 4, but
I know,
this podcast will literally, when people come up to me in the gym and they're like, man, you're so strong. How'd you get that strong? And I'm like, oh, it's a little of this, a little of that. It's like, now we'll have like, a transport system. Like, go listen to this, listen to episode this with this person. There's some great stuff in there. If you don't understand it, come back and talk to me, hit me up, and I'll fill in the gaps for you.
Yeah.
That's why this is just going to be so powerful, the more it grows. And that's one of the reasons I am really excited to bring on all these experts and stuff. And I know we got awesome people lined up the rest of the month to, to kind of kick this off. And, I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. for sure. Because
I don't know if I'm gonna leave this part in or not, but
well, I mean, just on top of that, like it's awareness. Like people don't realize, and I think just putting awareness on is important. And then two, like what can they do next once they have that awareness there? Because
right.
I think for me, I'm trying to like creative wellness, that wasn't there at all.
Mm.
And I just felt like something was lacking. And just to put awareness on and be like, what do I enjoy creatively? That helps me step into it and then choose what I want to do next with that.
Yeah. It's it's funny you said that. That's a perfect segue into the last question that I have for you. In your questionnaire, you wrote that creative wellness and finding your creative outlet and doing all that stuff has been very, very difficult for you. And you would say that that was one of the areas you felt like you were lacking in.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that very interesting because I know you're a creative person. I've read poems that you've written. I see you writing all the time. Like that's creative, brother. Why do you feel like you're lacking? That's like if I actively drive a car really, really fast and I'm like, I'm a shit driver though, man. It's like, bro, we're doing 1 mile an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I think for me, it was I didn't believe in myself to put it out there. And I wasn't confident in it. So I would like I felt comfortable with you, but with other people, I'd be like, oh, don't read my poem. Like, I don't know what you want to think of it. And so it wasn't as much about being creative or doing creative things. It was about being expressive and putting myself out there and like not worrying what people say about what I do or what I see or how I perceive things, because it's my own reality and I can project that in any way I want.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I guess you didn't ask for my advice, but I guess my advice is it's not for everyone to like. It's not for everyone to enjoy all things, especially like in today's age where it's like everything has to be like critiqued and reviewed and everyone has something to say and add. And it's like it doesn't have to be perfect for everyone, because someone is going to find something in it.
Yeah.
That's like I used to never tell my story. I used to never talk about all the the pain and everything that I went through to get to where I am, being a first generation college student and all the stuff I went through. But then I had this like realization, like, well, maybe somebody will hear this and be like, damn, okay, I can do it too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One of my friends, I forget what she said, but it was something along the lines of sharing is a form of gratitude. And it's like, wow, I never thought about that, because it's exactly what you said. It's putting it out there, hoping that somebody gets something from it. And not everybody will, but somebody might. And that impacts one person. And then those other people that don't really care about it, it's like, it's not changing their mind. It's not changing them. So it doesn't change anything at all.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead and jump off the cliff. See, put it out there, see what people think. I mean, you could be wrong and you fall flat on your face. Okay, cool. Maybe I'm not good at poems. Who gives a fuck? Who cares?
Yeah. Exactly.
Or maybe you put it out there and everyone's like, man, this is super cool.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'll do it. I
don't really got much else, man. What do you want to end on anything? Say,
I thought it was good. I mean, I guess all I just want to say is like, I'm super excited about this and kind of ready for what's going to happen from here. And I'm ready for all our guests to come on to the show. And I think it's going to be a wild ride full of ups and downs. And I hope it helps a lot of people along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very broad, and I think being able to address so much is not going to silo anything off. I mean, there's nothing that's going to really be off limits. And I truly believe everyone will be able to find something that they like, and everyone will probably find something that they don't like along the way, but that's just part of the pursuit, and that's just part of moving forward.
Oh, exactly. Let's see what happens. I have a feeling 2021 is going to be a good year.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it doesn't have much to stand up against, I mean, 2021 has the easiest job. Okay. Like you literally just don't have to be ass. You don't even got to be like awesome. You could just be like not bad. And we'd still be like, much better than 2020.
You could kind of be bad. You just be like, just a little bit.
Just not as shitty as this past year was.
It's like, it's like,
right.
You kind of ask yourself is this the bottom?
Yeah. I asked myself that like in March, and then again in July, and then again in August, and then again in September.
Well, and it's kind of like, are we falling or are we going back up? Are we falling? We haven't hit bottom. We're like, oh man, we can only go up from here, and we're slowly descending continuously, or are we gonna like?
I honestly think, and I'm one of them people. I think I can't wait to get on some more like neuroscience and cognitive perception people, because I'm one of those people that I really think that your mindset about something can change the entire situation. And I feel like a lot of people, December 31st, waking up January 1st, have a better mindset now about like, well, it's over with. I'm leaving all that shit in the past. This year is going to be better, and people are just waking up with a little bit higher, higher spirits, higher hopes, or just there's a positive mindset shift is what I would call it. I really think 2021 is going to be better, if for no other reason than that.
Yeah. And just like we get some momentum and just be happy, and then hopefully we can party and travel.
Yeah.
And be with people, because I think that's the thing that's bugging people the most is like being isolated, and that's not any fun at all.
Yeah. I had obviously my wife had COVID, and I had a couple other, beyond that COVID scare, I had a couple other COVID scares as well. My whole family had it. I never did. And so I know what it's like to have been exposed to someone and to think, man, maybe I have this. And like, do I still go see my mom, or do I stay home? And it's just that like, I don't know. I went to the grocery store last week. What if I got exposed there? I don't even know, like, I think once the vaccine gets a little more widespread, and once the fear comes down, I think it'll just be a lot better.
I think that's what people want, is just something to look forward to. So hopefully with this vaccine, I would hope that like 6 months from now we can be in a lot better spot.
Yeah, I think we'll be out of this by kind of mid or last quarter of this year. I think it'll be kind of, we'll be going back into COVID season, because I think it'll be a lot like the flu, where you'll have your seasons of it. But I think if nothing else, we'll all feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah. Just be in a better spot, man.
Yeah. Spreading positivity. That's what we're going to do here at uPOW. Excited to keep moving forward with you and everybody else and all the other guests we're going to bring on. And we will catch you guys next time.
Perfect. Don't spread COVID, spread positivity.
Booyah.